So I'm excited to have a good friend of mine, Raquel Williams, be a part of this discussion today that we're having around this very important topic. So I'll let Raquel introduce herself.
Kuchihiyama, Oyasatkan Pachakalu. Hi, my name is Raquel Williams. I'm excited to be here today. I am a basketry student. I'm a student of Miwok basketry. I am a mother of two boys, um, and I'm a community member, which that's probably one of my most prideful things, I guess I could say.
So thank you for being willing to share a little bit about yourself and what we call what today is kind of known as art, but um, kind of wanted to highlight some of the traditional teachings and knowledge that came behind basketry, because it's a very something that was taken away from us a long time ago, and some tribes have managed to hold on to it, and some families have also been able to hold on to the art of basket weaving. So what is one of your earliest memories of basketry that you can recall?
So I started baskets, or my interest in baskets, when I was 6 years old. And that was brought to me by my grandma. And so I remember sitting at the table and her just like looked like at that time like fidgeting with like these little sticks and that kind of thing. And so I remember just sitting there watching her, and she kind of like looked over and she said, I'm making a basket. And I said, oh, how are you doing that? She said, just watch. And so I was watching her little hands, just go to town. And then eventually she asked me if I wanted to learn. And I said, yeah, and so I started doing those um, at at the kitchen table, of course, but at that time I didn't realize what style of baskets I was doing. So when I got a little bit older, I realized that my baskets look different than other Miwok baskets from, I guess, a previous time. And so I started to wonder, why is that? Like, how come mine don't look this way? Am I not doing the proper technique? Or do I not have the right supplies? Or am I doing it wrong? But come to find out, it was that she taught me how to do pine needle baskets. And so then later on, I also found out that those aren't traditional to our people, right? And so then I was almost like a little bit embarrassed that I was doing this makeshift, something from, that didn't belong to my people. But at the time, I was like really prideful and like really happy that I would make these baskets. And then I realized as I got older, the importance of those pine needle baskets, right? And so I realized that those kept us through when times were rough. And those kept us going even when we didn't have the land to gather, and even when we didn't have the means to, right? Because at one point it was illegal to be just us, Indian people. And so I put baskets away for a while, because I had a family, and it didn't serve that time in my life, but it was always something in my heart. But then I guess you could say I had like a change in my life, when you start searching for something because you feel a little empty. And so one of my aunts, she did traditional Miwok baskets. And so traditional meaning, sedgeroot and willow and redbud and bracken fern and deer grass. So those were the baskets that I always wanted to know, right? And so I was really excited. And she said, yeah, I'll teach you, but you need to make sure that you have a year to dedicate to me. And I'm like, a year? Like, my grandma just taught me at the table when I was 6. But so my mom and I and my little sister, we said, yeah, sign us up, like in a joking way. And then in that year, we learned the process of traditional Miwok baskets, and the work that came from that. And then that's when I really realized that it wasn't, my grandma's fault or anybody's fault to do basketry without, like, quote unquote, like traditional materials. It's not our fault. And that was just something that we had to make do. And so now I get like, I'm really, I guess I could say I take pride in, the steps that I took to get to, because I really appreciate the work that goes into basketry. And I really appreciate the relationships that you make along the way. So not only is it relationships with people and, your family starts to get bigger and, road trips and gathering trips and that kind of thing, but also too the relationship that you gain with the land that you come from and the relationships that you gain with the plants that are from that land. And as you start working with those plants, you start tending to them. And you're actually helping them as they're helping you. And then so once that relationship is established, then you have an obligation, right? So I started with this plant, and in 2 years I'm going to come back, or in the fall time I'm going to come back, and that's my obligation to those plants, and that's my obligation to the land that I come from. And so when you think of it on a deeper aspect, it makes sense in why we are stewards of the land, and it makes sense because it goes parallel with like our spiritual beliefs, right? Because they're medicine, and whether you make medicine with them, or not, or teas or that kind of thing, you still working with them is healing you. And so that's how I like to look at them.
Yeah, it's almost recognizing that we are a part of the ecosystem and that we play a very important role into balancing the ecosystem, and that's been disrupted due to colonization and progress in what we see in America today. And so we're not able to gather in some of those places, and so the ecosystem's been disrupted. But when we revitalize some of these things, because like you said, you had taken a break from that, and so that means that when we step away from it because we either choose to or because we're forced to, it throws the balance off. And so I do definitely agree with what you're saying, and I appreciate you speaking to that, because sometimes we don't think of it that way. We see the end product and we don't really know the story behind it and the process that it took to get to that point. So what values do you feel that have been instilled in you as a result of learning how the process as you become gotten more involved in basket weaving, how has that helped you in understanding more values and principles?
Obviously hard work, and dedication. And I guess you could say, if I had to pick a word, maybe integrity. Because integrity is doing the right thing when nobody's looking, right? And so basketry, or being a student of basketry or a basket weaver, it's still doing the right thing to those plants, even when nobody's looking, right? And it's preparing throughout the year or years for your projects when nobody's watching, when that spotlight's not on you. And there's a lot of weavers that don't like to be like put on, on, I guess, like a pedestal, or like out in the open. And they should, but it's just kind of them being, I just see it as integrity, because they're doing it whether people are watching or not. You're taking care of the earth, and you're a part of the earth, and you're passing it on to your kids and grandkids or nieces and nephews and that kind of thing.
are there any issues or concerns that you have come across or that you're made aware of that surround basket weaving?
Obviously, well, the easiest one that you can speak on is land rights, because a lot of times, like our family gathers on side the road, or down a canyon, or those kind of things, and you have to be careful that those areas aren't sprayed with pesticides or weed killer or anything that can harm your body. Because when you're doing that work, you're using your hands and you're using your mouth and your teeth, um, and you're using your body, and those chemicals will come in contact with your body. So that, um, and well, speaking from this, is that our family, we like to go into the museum and we like to visit the basket. And I know that there's some people um, who don't. There's a pro and con to that, and like everything, some people don't believe that people should go in there, or that kind of thing. But at the same time, those baskets have a spirit, and the people who made them have a spirit, and the people who made them with knowledge that came from their ancestors and people before them. So it's almost like uh, I see it and my family sees it as going in to pay honor to those people
Hmm.
and pay an honor to those spirits of those people, and just saying thank you, because at the end of the day, their work has their work is the framework for what we have left in today. And so I would, like in a perfect world, I would love for all the baskets to be returned to the people, and like in a perfect world, I would love to see our baskets that are locked up in those cabinets, and that kind of thing. I would love to see them come home, and just kind of giving the people back giving the people their land back, right? And so in those baskets, they're a piece of the land and they're a piece of the people. And so that's what I would like to see.
Yeah. So what do you guys use? Because you guys use baskets still. Do you guys how do you guys utilize them today?
So my mom and my aunt, they make acorn soup, nupa. So they make that from start to finish in cooking baskets. And so they use the rocks, and everything is, as closest to the old way as possible. And so this past big time that we had, my mom and my aunt did a demonstration at Chase, and people from all over, were coming up the hill, and then next thing you know, like the word got around, and people were walking real fast up the hill, and couldn't wait to get that, and like couldn't wait to get their, the taste of nupa from start to finish in a traditional manner.
Yeah.
And so I believe that's important, right? I believe that's needed. And then I know a lot of people who don't really like acorn soup because they're like, it doesn't taste like dirt, or it tastes bitter, those kind of things. But at the same time, if you see the work being done and you see the process and you see these beautiful baskets that they're done in, that most of the time people just see them behind a cabinet, or they see them behind a glass, or they see them online, or, but when you see them in their work, and in their like I guess traditional part of it, and they're doing their job, and it's a beautiful thing because the people yearn for it.
Hmm. Yeah, and it helps nourish the people. Yeah. So any last thoughts? What would your words of encouragement be to someone that maybe is doing this kind of work, or is maybe pondering doing the work, or maybe that as a result of seeing this, they're become interested in this line of
My advice would be, don't be afraid to ask, right? Don't be afraid to just sit and watch, and don't be afraid to take a healthy risk, right? And I know a lot of times people are scared to ask, and people are scared to say, hey, can I help? Or but also too, don't be offended when you get, one of the aunties say, okay, well, yeah, sure, you want to help me, so go get those rocks over there and come back. Like, you might not get the glorified job right off the, right off the cuff, but put in the work and put in the time with the elders, and they'll teach you. And at the end of the day, you realize that's what they want, right? And so, and that's what they need. And a lot of times our elders aren't being used for what they're needed to be, right? And they're needed to teach us, and they're waiting. We just have to be the ones to do it. And it takes hard work. And it's a dedication, and it's a lifestyle, but at the same time it's beautiful. And what I love is when we're driving through like the forest on any occasion, and I look at all the plants and I'm like, oh, I can make something out of that. Oh, I can cut that down, but also too, only in your territories, and, like, have permission where you are. Otherwise there'll be a full out war.
And that knowledge came with learning, right? Because now you can identify those plants and know when the right time and protocol, like you're saying, all that came with the teaching. And so I think it's so important, like what you're saying is, those of you that might be encouraged by this, or that have been thinking about doing or are doing it, encourage one another, spend time with your elders, and like Raquel's saying, get that knowledge because it's there. And this is how we continue to fight the good fight, and we continue the resiliency of our people, is by teaching the traditional things, things that make us feel good and they help us, because science is catching up with our already known knowledge, is the mental health aspect of this kind of work, and how it helps help us in our mental wellness and physical wellness as well. And being able to share that and teach that and hand that beautiful gift down to the next generation so that they can keep it going. And I just think that it's so important, like you're saying, is utilize those elders to teach, but be willing to invest the work in the hard work that comes along with that. So thank you for sharing and taking time, for sharing the little bit of knowledge that you've gained so far, and for participating with us. So appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks. Oh, and I do have one thing to add though. So there was this lady, her name's Virginia Hedrick, and I saw she posted on Facebook one time because somebody was making a joke. Oh, it's on Indian time. And she said, oh, so something along the lines of, well, our Indians were always on time. We're on time when we gathered. There was always a special time for that. And there's a small window when you gather, right? So you have to be on time. And there's a special time for dance. So you have to be on time for that. So every time when I think about it now, I always think of making sure that you're punctual, right, with the seasons that are there, and make sure that you're not doing more harm than good.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing and being a part of this. And I look forward to seeing other people pick up this beautiful, beautiful gift that can be given if you put in the time and effort. It's definitely something that is very near and dear to our people, and has served our people very well since the beginning of time. And it's something our people have honed in and kept alive through even just means that aren't necessarily what our people may have used thousands of years ago, but there was still value in it. And I think that that's the takeaway for me, is that no matter what you do, as long as you have good intentions and remember the ones that have taught you in a good way, and to share others, then things will continue to help our people and serve our people. So thank you again for sharing with us, and look forward to seeing all the good work that you continue to share and do in the community.
Oh, thank you.